When you think of Championship football, you think of the Not the Top 20 podcast. It's Jack Reeve alongside Ali Maxwell today. He's dressed up for the occasion. We're going to be discussing all things Norwich City, the signings that have been made so far, the outgoings, and what the Championship landscape looks at present. Ali, great to have you on Talk Norwich City once again. Have you got fully into EFL mode now after the heartbreak of the Euros?
Wow, yeah, I think I had about 3 or 4 days properly licking my wounds, like probably the rest of the nation. But I'm always struck by how quickly the brain refreshes itself and the excitement for the new season starts. I felt I'd need a month, and it turned out 4 days was enough. So yeah, I have to admit, the last week or so, I've been getting very, very excited about the new season. We're doing much more like transfer window stuff than we've ever done before. And rather than it being a bit of a ball ache, it's actually been really fun. And it's kind of interesting to be tracking clubs' squad building in real time rather than just a week before the start of the season seeing what's what. So yeah, an exciting time, I think, for NTT20. And what is it, 2.5 weeks to go? I'm just absolutely gasping for some EFL football, and I can't wait to be getting to games in August.
And I mean, we've gone 1:30, so let's get the first NTT20.com plug-in. You are covering every transfer. Now, people can go and check that out for themselves. We'll link it in the description. But how on earth are you juggling that? Or has it just been a very slow summer of transfers?
No, it's not been slow at all. I think we've covered coming up to 500 done deals in 23 days. The first post was on the 1st of July, where I wrote up 201 that had been done up to that point. And when I say write up, this isn't just BBC Sports transfer page, just listing the name of the player and the clubs and the fee. This is with at least 20, sometimes up to 100 words worth of detail, of insight, of context, of opinion. We've got a great team on site at the moment because it's grown really, really well. We use Substack, so it's a subscriber model. And it's fantastic because the reaction to our launch a year ago led to over 500 paid subscribers, and that has led to us growing our team, which means now we have more scope to do stuff like this, like ambitious stuff, which takes a lot of time. So it's a big team of which I am just one person, guys that know so much about both EFL players and in some cases like outside of the UK players as well, which has been a big theme of the Championship transfer window so far. So yeah, we're all guns blazing, 2 bulletins a week on NTT20.com, and they go straight into your inbox if you're a subscriber. You can read them on the app or a website as well. So we're, as we have done for about 8 years, and you guys have been going all guns blazing on Norwich City around the same amount of time, I reckon, just trying to provide actual quality, insightful EFL transfer content rather than just clickbait rumor stuff full of clickable ads. That's what we've always wanted to do for those who love the leagues as much as we do. And it's a pleasure. It's been good fun.
Great stuff. No, it's brilliant. And having listened to the podcast for many years, plenty of nuggets have been picked up that I can then pass off as my own knowledge down the pub and act knowledgeable. So Georgia and yourself, Ali, a big thanks for that. Let's start with the outgoings at Norwich City. And I think there's a pattern here. Sam McCallum, Dimi Anulis, Ben Gibson, Christoph Solis, and Danny Bart, the notable ones. Ali, I look at that list, and the glaringly obvious thing that stands out to me is we're struggling for a left back now.
Yeah, for sure. That's clearly, look at the squad breakdown by position. That's the big hole at the moment, right? I know that Sorensen has filled in a number of different roles, including left back in his actually quite long Norwich career up to this point. But for sure, that's the gaping hole. I don't know about you. I don't think that too many tears will be shed about losing Yanulis and McCallum just as players. Both fine players, I think, but for where Norwich City want to get to, I don't think it's an issue. And I don't think it's an issue that there isn't one in the building yet. It's nice to build your squads early, but that's not always the case. And one thing that we're seeing in the Championship is that the domestic market for Championship clubs feels quite scarce at the moment, particularly at left back, right back, and up front. So any Championship clubs, even those who have a bit about them in terms of finances and could probably bring in a top League One player or even a bottom half Championship player like Norwich, that's where I would pitch them anyway, are finding it difficult to actually find legitimate options. So you'll see Harrison Burrows, the Peterborough United captain and left back. I think he's going to sign for Sheffield United. Jack Curry, the Wimbledon left back, 22 years old, signed for Oxford. Like, outside of those guys, there's very few sort of that really leap off the page. So for me, Norwich are going to have to do what they've done with Jose Cordoba and look abroad. And I happen to think that's the right thing to do, because we've been banging the drum for a while now that clubs who can successfully recruit from abroad, who take the risk, and it is a risk to do so, but do so in a smart way, can get unbelievable value for money versus what they can get in the English pyramid. So I would expect a Euro left back, albeit I have seen Callum Doyle linked, and that would be a fantastic loan addition. Absolutely no doubt about that. He'd be able to play a sort of possession-based left back role, certainly not bombing up and down, but kind of in that modern format, tucking inside to be part of the back three in possession and defending wide areas. He'd be brilliant in that front.
You mentioned Jose Cordoba there, the solitary incoming so far. We were speaking off camera, and I sensed the excitement surrounding this chap, and the smile on your face tells me that as well. Just talk to me about what we've got on our hands here.
Yeah, I mean, sort of different levels of excitement that come from different parts of me. First thing to say is I'm a child of Championship Manager and Football Manager, and therefore a Championship club signing a Panamanian centre back from Bulgaria, I will never not be excited about that. The day I lose my passion for that sort of thing is a day that I stop doing this and, do some accountancy exams or something. So, I smile because this is what I want to see. And this is what I find interesting about football, about squad building, etc. So I'm excited on that front. And then there's the more logical part of my brain, the more analytical part of my brain. We do some work with a company called 21st Group, who are very smart people, data insights, and they have a worldwide player rating model. They rate every single player among the whole world of footballers, and it's a pretty impressive model. And it helps with players like Cordoba, who I don't know myself. So just to get a sense of how they would rate this player, they would rate him at a similar quality to Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who was on their model one of the top 5 centre-backs in the Championship last season. So that's an early tick in the box. Of course, that doesn't mean that he will perform as well as Harwood-Bellis. There might be problems with adaptation, etc. But I think that was a really good start. That made me pretty excited to see what he's got to offer. The other thing is, I think it's really important for you guys that he is good, because of what I understand is going to be the new style of play with much heavier onus on build up in deep areas. And the fact that outside of him in the squad, in those positions, I see real weakness actually on the ball, both basically starting with Gunn, who I don't think is the best ball playing goalkeeper. Now, fantastic shot stopper. I do believe that at this level. But if you look at the two teams that won automatics last season in Leicester and Ipswich and Southampton, they all had a keeper whose main skill was passing, basically, which is still hard to get used to. The modern game, it's changed a lot, and I'd rather just have a good shot stopper, but it is important if you're going to play short from the back, and I think the new manager is going to do that. So for Cordoba to be billed as a good ball progressor, someone comfortable in possession, left foot always helps as well for balance. I think it's really important that he hits the ground running and is able to offer quality in those sort of very deep areas of possession, because outside of him, I'm pretty worried about that in terms of the squad as it is at the moment.
You mentioned, a fresh playing style, and that comes obviously a new managerial appointment. Johannes Hoff Thorup comes in, David Wagner departs. Although not a player signing, arguably probably the most crucial bit of summer business. Now, who knows how this one will pan out? But when you saw that appointment come about, Ali, what were your kind of first impressions?
Yeah, I'm pleased to see a club in Norwich City that, albeit it's been a choppy last couple of years and things got a little bit muddled at the end of the Stuart Webber era. Like, personally, I want to see Norwich City as a forward-thinking, attractive football-playing club, a club that has such an impressive academy and has done better than almost every other club that I can think of, barring maybe Blackburn, Bristol City, clubs like that, at providing pathway into the first team for their young players. And you can be a club that recruits well and signs players ready to star, like Apuki, Buendia, and you can do the youth side as well. And this appointment, on the face of it, from what I've learned about the manager, who I did not know personally beforehand, is that he is pretty well fitted to all of those things, playing attractive football, attacking football, sure, but also, possession style, who's going to put a lot of time and effort into developing the players already in the building. And that just feels right to me for Norwich City. I'm not sitting here and saying I'm buzzing for you guys to win the title this season, because I think there's a lot that we need to see. There's a lot of proof that we need to see before we start getting that excited about results. But just overall, after what's been a really disappointing couple of seasons, I feel like it seems to me like a good fit and the right sort of appointment for Norwich to be making.
And in terms of that youth implementation, Ali, I mean, kind of Abu Kamara, Brad Hills both had successful loan spells in the EFL last season, and you'll have watched both of those probably more than myself. Out of those two, do you think either of them can make a mark in this Norwich side?
For sure, yeah. I mean, Kamara would be the more obvious option right now, in that he starred for the team that won League One last season. He was, certainly for the second half of Portsmouth's season, their most effective attacking player and won them a lot of points. And I think he appeared in every single game, which for someone playing their first full season at senior level speaks to really impressive both mental strength and also the kind of necessary athleticism and physical capabilities to handle a 46-game season. And then there's the fact that on the ball and what he did in the final third, he made such progress to the point where a lot of League One fullbacks couldn't really get near him. If you got too tight to him, he just sneaks away from you, and he's so quick over the first few yards that he gets away. And if you back off him, well, he showed that he can pick out a pass. He plays with his head up. He's not a selfish player, and scored a couple of goals as well. So I'm really excited for Kamara. I thought that it might be worth sending him back to Portsmouth, to be honest, just to get another season with a team that already knows him and rates him and knows how to use him at championship level. But now looking at the squad and understanding, as I do, that I think the manager is going to be playing this almost Maresca style 3-2-5 shape in possession, it is very important that you have 1v1 specialists out wide, because a lot of the attacks will end with your winger getting the ball 1v1, with a lot of the opposition defenders having been sucked across the other side of the pitch during a long spell of possession. And that's when the attack really, really starts. And that's where a team that plays that style, that's how we know whether they'll either be, or you will be a really good attacking team that scores a lot of goals, or whether you might be slightly stale. And he is a good profile for that. So I'm pretty excited about the options of Sainz and Rowe and Kamara in wide areas, with Fasnacht being a sort of a reserve option. I do think that's a strong area of the pitch for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the league in general, Ali, I mean, on the kind of early eye test, it feels as if the top end of the table is less strong than what we saw last season. Luton, and the other sides coming down. How is that kind of top six or predicted top 6 to 8 shaping up at the moment in terms of summer transfer business?
Yeah, it's been a bit slow in the Championship. I think partly due to what I spoke about with the domestic market not being that exciting. I think the fact as well that in the Championship compared to League One and League Two, contracts are generally longer. It's probably harder to shift players, actually. Whereas in League One and League Two, they've both gone past 150 transfers in those divisions. The Championship's still on 84 as we record. So Norwich are one of 8 teams that have signed 2 players or fewer. So a third of the division is in the similar boat to you guys. There's nothing really to panic about, I don't think. You've got teams like Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday have both added 9 players, which is obviously quite extreme at this point. But as for the ones around you, I mean, when it comes to Burnley, there's a lot more to do in terms of just getting rid of this absurd squad that they've developed. They've got something like 38 senior players in their squad, which is kind of ridiculous. So they look like a bit of a mess at the moment. Scott Parker has to kind of mop that up. As for Luton, they've almost gone the other way. They're pretty much sticking with what they had. I think that's probably to their strength, to be honest with you. Middlesbrough, they have just added a couple of bits and bobs on top of a squad that was already in decent nick. Leeds, I think the story is more about what might still happen in terms of Somerville leaving, Gnonto, all those guys. So, and Sheffield United, yes, they made a few eye-catching signings a couple of days ago with Kiefer Moore and Callum O'Hare, but overall that squad is currently got a lot of holes in it, a lot of rumor about a change of formation, but it's not a squad that is particularly well balanced or well put together at the moment. So really, in that group of teams that you're talking about, there's not a huge amount that's been done in terms of transfers. So right now, just transfer business itself doesn't seem like one of the sort of headlines when we're looking at the top of the championship. And that's why I think at the moment it still feels really hard to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And the start of the championship season is going to be here before we know it, Ali. If you look at the Norwich squad and the group of players we've got at time of recording, which area of the pitch do you think needs strengthening the most at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm a bit worried about the defensive options, mainly in terms of like the possession stuff, more so than the defensive stuff. So like if the team's going to play the way that I think they are, generally there's going to be one fullback that's a bit of a flyer and is going to basically be part of a front five. And while Stacey has amazing athleticism and he very much can motor up and down, in terms of being a difference maker in the final third with his final ball, I think he'd be fine, but I don't think he'd be like a top player at this level playing that role. Then there's a fact at left back, there's just a huge gap at the moment. So will you be signing someone comfortable in those sort of defensive and middle thirds in possession, or a flyer on the other side? In which case, has Stacey got it in him to tuck inside and be part of a really like tight possession based team? I don't think that's his strength. So in fullback areas, I think there's a lot to be done, just in terms of working out the right balance, really. And then at centre back, we hope that Cordoba is going to offer that left sided, technical ability, but then partnering with him, Duffy, Hanley, potentially Hills. These aren't guys who have a great track record of playing a really intense short passing game. So that's my sort of broad area of concern. Now, the defensive midfielder plays a huge part here as well. I'm going to reference Leicester again. I think of Harry Winks, where I'm not sure if he was even considered one of the most standout players in the championship last season. But for me, he was probably the most important player for the team that won the league, because in that role, in that type of style of play, you need someone who just has such good IQ. It's not just about passing range in terms of being able to ping crossfield balls or big switches. It's actually more about knowing when to play those passes and when to actually knock it back to the keeper, out wide to the fullback, to the centre back. It's about setting the tempo and knowing when to recycle and when to punch it forward. So even though I love Nunez and I think he could come on massively, and Sara was just one of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league last season, I'm still not sure either of them are most comfortable being that really deep dictator. So then I'm looking at Gibbs and Kenny McLean, and I'm hopeful that Gibbs could come on. I've been kind of waiting for that for a couple of years now. So maybe it's his time. Maybe that's a good role for him, but it's a big job. And McLean as well is obviously very rarely let Norwich down. Is he on the same level as like a Winks or someone at the very top of the division? I think there might be people watching who have various opinions on that, so I won't weigh in. But that's probably the area of the pitch right now that I'm looking at and thinking, if Norwich are going to play this style and dominate games and win football matches at the level that they want to finish top 6, challenge the top 2, I still think that I'm a bit unconvinced about the personnel.
I think everyone gets excited about incomings, but actually when you're a squad like Norwich and you've got plenty of kind of sellable assets, Johnny Rowe, Borja Sainz, Josh Sargent, Gabby Sara, the kind of anxiety in these last few weeks leading into the season is, will we lose any of them? Out of those kind of probably group of 5, if you include Angus Gunn in that, Ali, I mean, which of those do you think Norwich are most likely to lose?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I want to just quickly balance out my concerns by saying I love the top end of the pitch. I think it's really good options. And I think if you can achieve what I'm talking about and be a team that gets into the final third repeatedly in a safe and secure way, I do believe you've got like 6 match winners in the final third. So that's really exciting to me. In terms of outgoings, yeah, I mean, I've been of the opinion this summer that the most likely player to have interest at a level where clubs that could pay a lot of money would pay a lot of money is Sarah. That's because I think John Rowe, who I love, I think his injury and his return, which didn't set the world alight, shall we say, compared to how he played pre-injury. I think that might have just given an extra red flag for a Premier League club that might have looked at his August and September and thought, yes, please, I'll have a bit of that. So I'm not sure anyone's going to be paying the sort of money that Norwich would be wanting for a player like him. But partly because Sarah's Brazilian as well, and therefore I think it's more likely that he would have interest from overseas. I do think that he's probably the most likely one to potentially, in a couple of weeks' time, some big club from across Europe or even in the Prem just goes, you know what, 25 mil, 30 mil, I'll have a bit of that. He's going to do a bit of everything for me, and he's really sturdy, very rarely misses a game, super consistent, good on both sides of the ball. That for me is the biggest potential sale for Norwich, but I haven't heard a huge amount doing the rounds at the moment, so it's kind of all quiet on the Western Front for now.
Yeah, it's been slow on the rumours front. I think there's a lot of ifs and buts, and that can either excite you or give you cause for concern going into the lead up of the season, which makes me fascinated to hear where you're going to put Norwich in your 1 to 24 when that comes out. We've got that to look forward to, which is always the most anticipated listen for EFL fans, and of course all of the updates coming on NTT20.com. Just give us a roundup of not only the content that we can expect in the lead up to the season, Ali, but all of the podcasts and written form content throughout the season.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so NTT20.com has been really exciting for us over the last year or so. I don't feel that there's been an offering like this for EFL fans, a real focus on like quality content. And that means sometimes long form content and features and analysis and the sort of stuff that isn't good for clickbaity local news sites. So that's what we've been trying to do, and it's gone down really well. The transfer window coverage has been a massive part of that, and we'll be doing that right until the end of the window. So every single transfer that gets done in the Championship, in League One and League Two, we are covering, and we are giving some context around the player, some information, and our thoughts as well. So that comes on a Monday and a Thursday. And then there's one extra piece at least as well per week. This week we've got a professional European scout who's writing about some of the signings from overseas, including about 800 words on Jose Cordoba. He knows him a lot better than I do. So there's a lot going on there. And then the podcast will come back, and there's not much changing there. The 1 to 24s will kick off the season, always a real event to kick off the Championship season. And then we'll be doing our Monday show, recapping the weekend and getting into the weeds of various players, managers, teams each week, and the betting show on a Thursday as well. So in terms of the pod, more of the same, and just on the written offering, like we're going really hard at it, and we think it's a great offering for EFL lovers.
Yeah, you've always been yourself and George the go-to voice for me for EFL coverage, and always slightly saddening when you know more about Norwich than myself, and I watch them every game. So look, Ali, links to NTT20.com and the various platforms in the description below. Thank you very much for giving your lowdown on Norwich. Maybe if time allows, we might be able to get you back in a month or so when the transfer window's shut and the dust has settled a little bit. But for now, thanks very much, mate, and speak to you soon.
It's been great to be on. I always enjoy the knowledgeable TNC comments as well. So thanks for having me on.